Well, hello again, guys. It's the Red Shadow, and I am miraculously back with the next video that I mentioned in my update video, and this is my January-February 2022 monthly pickups. The two put together because I was a lazy bastard and I didn't sit down and do these at the end of each of those months. So, this should hopefully be the kickstart of me staying on this monthly pickups video schedule. The easiest and my most favorite thing pretty much to do nowadays are these, because there's always something to show. I'm always buying movies, video games, etc. every month, so there's never anything lacking in terms of this kind of content from me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start right on in. I've got two stacks, January here, February here. Movies first, then games for January, movies and games for February. So let's just go ahead and jump right on in. First thing I'm going to show is a movie that I absolutely have no idea why I didn't already have it on Blu-ray, and that's Dirty Dancing. This is the 30th anniversary edition. It was really cheap, $5 or $6 I think on Walmart.com. I picked it up. Like I said, as soon as I realized I don't have this on Blu-ray, I had to get it. Just a great 80s movie. If you don't know what it is, just go check it out. It's worth watching. In my opinion, just about anybody can watch that movie and enjoy it. Alright, the next thing I have to show here is Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. I'm trying to do this in such a way that I don't get the weird glare off of things, but still have enough lighting to show things. That's probably a little better. My top of my head is going to look real pale, but this is a CG Resident Evil Netflix show that had, I believe, 6 episodes. I remember when I first saw something about this, I think it was in 2021 or maybe even 2020 during some sort of Capcom Resident Evil digital presentation, maybe where they were talking about Resident Evil Village, and this was included in it, and I thought it was just a new CG movie to go with a couple of the other ones that I have, and that it was going to be on Netflix, but it was all of those things except it was a limited series of a handful of episodes. So when this came out, and I saw it at the Walmart where I work at, I was like, well, I'm going to have to get it. I haven't watched any of the CG Resident Evil movies, but also I've heard that they tend to lean towards being better than the live-action movies. But I'm just buying them all up because I'm a Resident Evil fan, and although I've only played like the first 3 games all the way through, the originals, and then after that I haven't played any of them other than, well, 7 and 8. But my point is, I've got a lot of Resident Evil holes to fill, so I pick up the movies and the games, and then I'll watch or play them down the road. Alright, the next thing I picked up here is a movie called Spencer, and that glare is going to kill this. Maybe we will just go ahead and turn the computer monitor off. Let's point this light. And adjustments made on the fly. That's a little bit better. Anyway, this is a movie starring Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana, and it's a story about, I guess, the time frame in her life when she decided that she was going to want to get a divorce from Prince Charles and no longer be a part of the royal family. I don't know a whole lot more about the story than that, but I have heard that she puts on an amazing performance in this, and it's really good. And I know that the Oscar nominations were revealed recently, but I didn't really pay much attention to it, so I don't know if she got the Oscar nod that some people were talking about. But I like Kristen Stewart everywhere from the Twilight movies to several other movies of hers that I've seen, and it's why I grab a lot of the stuff that she puts out. So that whenever that point in my life comes where I'm spending more time watching movies than YouTube or playing games, I'll be able to get caught up. Okay, next up we have a horror movie, horror-ish. And I've said it before on videos in the past, especially when I'm showing my movie pickups, that horror movies aren't really my thing, but every once in a while a horror movie comes along and it's either the premise or the visual style or the people who are in it will convince me to get in on the hype, and this is one of those that I decided to jump in on, and that's Malignant. I think I've heard that it is a kind of a horror comedy. This says horror thriller. Maybe comedy isn't the right word. Maybe just unconventional horror is what this movie is about. And that's really about all I can say about it. It's just that it had some buzz, and it's different. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'll check it out. So I got that one. Trying to make this a little bit more brisk than normal. Here's one of the few times when I had to buy something on DVD because I didn't have a Blu-ray, at least not to my knowledge. But this is a WWE Wrestling DVD, Best of 1996, Prelude to Attitude. Tracking through the final year before WWE kind of went full Attitude Era in 97. And also, I just now realized on the back here it mentions 25th anniversary. It's been 25 years since 1996. So I guess while I don't watch a lot of WWE stuff nowadays, I still like to go back and get this kind of stuff, to look at the history, to look in the days when I was getting back into wrestling after being a big fan in the 80s and falling off at the end of the 80s and into the early 90s. And sort of getting back into it in the mid-90s, and especially when Attitude Era popped up. A lot of the guys that are in this, Bret Hitman Hart, Stone Cold, Triple H, Undertaker, Mankind, Shawn Michaels, The Rock, especially when he became The Rock. Peak time for me, so anytime I can grab one of these kind of things, I like to jump on it. Also, I was thinking of this myself. I think the reason why this might be DVD only is because it's prior to the HD era, and if there's not like a lengthy documentary style thing that's filmed in the here and now to be in HD, then I suppose they get away with, these are going to be matches done in standard definition, so why not just stick with a DVD? That's just my thought process there. Okay, here's a movie I've been wanting to get ever since I first heard about it, and I waited for this movie to come in at the store where I worked, and then it never did, and it never has, as far as I know. I had to order it online. It's a Criterion Collection Blu-ray, and it's for a movie called Marriage Story, starring Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. It's Kylo Ren and Black Widow. And it's it says back here, a love story about divorce, a marriage that falls apart and a family that's coming apart. But I think this is also kind of considered to be somewhat like light comedy, lighthearted perhaps, or maybe it's not lighthearted, maybe it's deep, but just contains some levity. I just thought with the actors that were in it, I wanted to check it out. Like I said, I was just bummed that I didn't get it when it first came out, because I'm guessing either it was just my store or maybe Criterion at Walmart is not seen often. When I worked in electronics, we had Criterion movies from time to time, but I think Best Buys and obviously like Amazons and whatnot and online in general get these more often, at least, than the store that I work at. Okay, and here's a movie that I couldn't believe that I didn't have. I really swear It was a couple years ago, the first time that I didn't have my job at Walmart. I'm pretty sure it came out during that period of time, but I thought for sure I had picked it up somewhere along the way. But now I got it. I got it with a pretty neat little, slipcover. But this is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is the animated Spider-Man movie from a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure won the best animated feature that year. I've been wanting to get it for a long time, and my interest and my realization that I didn't have it came because I think a couple months ago a trailer came out that there was going to be a sequel. So glad to have finally got it. There's, like what the original cover looks like, but this slipcover is pretty neat too. Nothing really on the back. All right, and here's the next one in this pile. It's sort of an unconventional horror or thriller style movie. It's called on here a psychological thriller, but I heard some people calling it a horror movie. But that is Last Night in Soho, which is an Edgar Wright movie. Says on here, director of Baby Driver, but he's known for a lot of other stuff too. But I wanted to check it out because it looked like it was interesting, and I like Anya Taylor-Joy movies. If I see that she's in a movie, I usually check into it, and then when I saw the visual style of it and heard so many things about it, I was like, well, this movie is just starting to sound really, really interesting. Once again, while I won't be a part of the zeitgeist at the time that it was big, I had to get in on it and see what everybody was talking about. So, Last Night in Soho, and this brings me to my last Blu-ray release, or Blu-ray pickup for January, and I got the cool, only at Walmart version of this, but this is No Time to Die, the final Daniel Craig Bond movie. Daniel Craig, the Bond that I didn't really have any interest in at first, but then I took the plunge. I watched Casino Royale and whatever the second movie was, Skyfall? I don't know. I don't remember. I only watched the first two Daniel Craig movies. I haven't watched the other two or three, but now I have this, and it's, like I said, it's a pretty big, cool, fat box because it comes with it says exclusive Saffin Mask keychain. Eventually, yes, I will open this, but for right now, until I'm ready to watch it or whatever, I just haven't opened it yet. Okay, and now let's get to the games. So that was a movie-heavy month, January was, because I only have 4 video games that I picked up for January. So let's get started. This was a cheap pickup I got from Best Buy. Something I saw a long time ago. One of these kind of low-budget, cute-looking action RPG style games. It's Ari and the Secret of Seasons. Said cheap. I think I paid $11 or $12 from this at Best Buy, brand new. Just a simple little game. Grand adventure full of enemies, puzzles, and discovery. Yeah, it doesn't even really say much on the game itself. I don't think it's rated super high. I think I watched maybe one review of it a couple years ago. And it was nah. But when they're cheap and they have any kind of a look or feel to them that seems interesting to me, I will jump on it. And I only have one limited run game pickup that came in January, but this is another one of the Kimco JRPG style games. It's As Divine Menace. There is a series of As Divine or I don't want to call it As Divine, so we'll stick with As Divine games. I have a couple, but I don't have all of them. But when this one came up, I was able to grab it, and it came in, in January. So that's one. Well, that's number 2 of 4. Now here's one that I wanted to get. I started to see it popping up on the PS4 collecting groups that I'm in, and I got a little worried that maybe it was a low print run or something, it was going to get hard to find. I don't think that is the case, but I picked it up and I've had a chance to play it a little bit. But this is called Just Die Already. This is a YouTuber game, as I call them, because a couple years ago it was on YouTube. A bunch of people were playing like early access version of it. It's one of these goofy physics sandbox style games. And it's from people who had something to do with Goat Simulator, which was like the first simulator game that went all out into like meme territory and just grasped the goofiness of it. But it's not from Coffee Stain. It says it's from Curve Digital and Double Moose. So I know Coffee Stain Studios is responsible for Goat Sim. So maybe it was just a portion of that team split off and made this game. I played it, I want to say like two separate occasions, and it's fun and all, but it does get kind of tiresome, and I think I had that experience with Goat Simulator. It can wear out its welcome, and then you have to put it down for a while, but it's still kind of goofy fun. You're an old person. It says Old People Mayhem Sandbox. You're an old person, you get out of the retirement home, you run around the city and you get into all kinds of mischief, and your character can like explode into pieces and lose limbs and just goof around. And like I said, you kind of get to a point with it where you're like, okay, I get it, and I'm gonna play something else now. Alright, and then my last pickup for January, I would call this my big PS4 pickup. That's the Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. This is the long-awaited and somewhat disappointing, some say, remaster of Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for the newer consoles. It didn't have a native disc version for PS5 and Xbox Series X, but PS4, Xbox One, and Switch got versions of this. It also came out in what most people call pretty bad shape. This was not done by a top-tier Rockstar team. This was given to somebody called Grove Street Studios, which is strange when you think about a studio having the name of a popular area in Grand Theft Auto history. I don't know this for sure, but I want to say I remember reading that they were people who were working on mods and doing stuff for the Grand Theft Auto, and they were given the task of porting these games over to mobile in the past, and then they were given the project for consoles. And maybe that wasn't such a great idea. I haven't played it yet because I've been afraid to. I have opened it, I have popped my disc into the console, and installed the games, and then the multiple patches that have come out for it since this came out in November or December. But I've kind of been afraid to play it just yet, and there's lots of other games to play, so I just stick with playing those other things. Eventually I'll sandwich this in somewhere, and hopefully it's in a better state. All I really ever wanted, I mean, I would have loved the done in GTA 5 style graphics version of these three games. But if what I have heard is true, if just some controls, the weapon wheel, if the car physics and all that stuff just feel more like those games, that's more than enough for me to get through them. I've never beat any of those games. As much as I love these three titles here, especially San Andreas and then 3 and then Vice City, I would love to be able to actually beat these games, because every single one of those games had a mission or a part in them that was too much for me, and I wasn't able to ever finish them. That was my hope with this when they started to talk about it. And then when they said it was glitchy and there was all kinds of craziness to it, it deflated me a little bit. So I'm willing to wait. But yes, I guess you could say I'm part of the problem. I bought it, when it was relatively still brand new. And so I gave them their money, and I gave them my stamp of approval, I guess, on whatever state this was in. But I have high hopes that at least one of these days I'll finally be able to play those games and see them all the way through to the end. Speaking of the end, that is the end of January's new releases, and now I will start into February's. February was more game focused and less movie focused. I only have 4 movies and several games. So let's get right into the first movie I'm going to show is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. This is the new live action movie that has nothing to do with the previous live action movies. This is supposed to be a lot more tied into or connected to the games, whereas the live action Hollywood movies took a lot more creative liberty. And I've heard some baddish reviews for this, but like I said earlier with the CG Netflix series, I'm going to buy them anyway, just so I can kind of have that complete collection. And then I'll watch it one of these days and give my thoughts back on it later. So the next thing I've got here is F9 The Fast Saga. And I'm just going to say it right now, but F you Fast and Furious series for these ridiculous titles. F9 The Fast Saga. When I saw this on the shelf in the store, I thought that this was the whole entire 9 movies up until now. The Fast Saga would suggest the whole entire thing. Once I realized that it wasn't that, and once the price on this had come down to a little bit more comfortable price, I was like, alright, well, we'll go ahead and get it and add it to the collection. I think the last time I'd gotten into any of the Fast movies, I've watched up through the 7th. So I've got 8, I've got 9, I've got the Rock and Jason Statham spin-off, and I guess 10 is going to be 2 movies, and that'll finish off the series. I'm kind of ready for this one to be over just because of how ridiculous so much of this stuff is with this series. Not like the content of it, the movies or whatever, it's just how many movies they've done, the handling of Paul Walker's death, and sort of continuing on even after that. He's like, him and Vin Diesel to me were kind of the backbones of these, so with him gone, it's kind of odd, and I have yet to see how it's played out on film, like when they use his brothers and CG and all that to kind of finish off that last movie that he was a part of. I'm probably not even really looking forward to it, but we'll just see. I don't know. I'm sticking with the Fast series because there are movies in there that I really do like that have personality to them, and then there are ones that are just action movies and they're whatever. Alright, the next thing I have here, and I'm glad I was able to get this one when I could, it's just simply because I like this slipcover that was only available at Walmart. But this is The Suicide Squad. It's weird, though, to hold up a movie like this and say The Suicide Squad when over there in my movie shelves I have Suicide Squad. And I haven't even watched that Suicide Squad, so now I have another Suicide Squad with some of the same characters and actors playing them and a bunch of different people. And the only thing I guess that I'm really happy about in regards to this is that this is supposed to be a lot better than the last one, and it's James Gunn, right? It's James Gunn who did the Guardians of the Galaxy and the MCU movies, and those were really good. So I can't wait to do this. Just putting it out there, like I'm watching through MCU movies, and then I want to watch the Bond movies, the Daniel Craig Bond movies after that. And I want to watch the DC Universe movies sometime soon after that and actually get through them, because I still only watched Man of Steel. Okay, last movie, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. A lot of words in that one. When I first saw previews of this movie, I was like, what? What is this? Like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies have all mostly covered properties that I've been aware of. I mean, granted, Guardians of the Galaxy I'd never heard of until that came along, and it was really good. Both of those movies have been great. But now I feel like between this and the Eternals, they're kind of dredging up some weird random old properties, or properties that have been big in the last 10 years or so, and because I don't watch or read comics and don't really pay much attention to it, I'm not aware that these were popular. But I heard that this was really, really good. Some people said it was one of the best movies in the whole series. And despite all my complaints about there being too many MCU movies, they do a really fucking good job of being good movies, being fun, and being entertaining. So we'll see. But I had to get that one and add it to the collection. And so now we've got games, 9 PS4 games that I picked up in February. Alright, we're going to start with a cheap pickup, Goosebumps, Dead of Night. This was cheap on eBay, and I took the time to look it up and see whether or not it was a kind of game I would care about, because I think a lot of the early Goosebumps were more like hidden objects and stationary puzzle style games. Like, there wasn't much to them. This is actually more of a third person walk around in an area, get jump scared kind of game. And for a cheap price, like I paid for this, $12.99 or something like that, I was like, sure, why not? So I threw that one in. And then I have a game called Hoa. First time I ever saw this kind of platforming game, cool, stylish look. I thought, that's pretty neat. I'll have to pick that up at some point. And then I kind of blanked on it and forgot about it for a while. And then I saw it was, I think, $25 for this one somewhere. And it was like a $30 to $35 game. I thought, let's go ahead and get it. And it comes with the digital original soundtrack and a postcard included inside the game. Alright, and this was another cheaper-ish game. I've been waiting to get this for what I thought was a decent price for a long time, just because I'm curious about this game and what it's all about. This is Slime Rancher. It's Deluxe Edition. I've been kind of holding out to get the Deluxe Edition because Slime Rancher itself had gotten like under $20 when I've been searching for it. This just has some DLC content. It's Secret Style Pack, game soundtracks, a Slimepedia booklet, and more. But I was like, when there isn't that much of a price difference on a deluxe edition or whatever, I'll go ahead and get it when it's in a comfortable price range. And this one finally did it. Finally got into that range. So I'm assuming that this is going to be something that's going to feel like a, I don't know, Harvest Moon or Pokemon or Minecraft. Like the look and feel and style of kind of walking around, gathering resources, farming for these slimes, and because it shows like slimes in some sort of a cage. I see it all the time in videos and stuff, and I watch and I read and I try to absorb what I can, but then I don't think about this game for months and I kind of forget. So we'll see what, because there's not a lot on the back here other than just a few quotables. Not a lot there to tell me what's going on in the game, but we'll get into it at some point. Alright, and here's another horror game. This is Absolov, End of Gods. This has been on my radar for quite a while, along with a shit ton of other games. And it kind of slipped my mind, and then I saw a friend on one of the forums I'm a part of, Theo. If you see this, hey, you had shared your PS5 pickup of this game, I believe it was, and I was like, ooh, I almost forgot about this game. I need to look it up. It wasn't too expensive, so I ran out there and grabbed it. Norse Mythology, survival horror, sci-fi adventure. First person, I call it the first person walking sim, jump scare games, of which there are so many of them nowadays, but when they're done well, I quite enjoy them. This is the kind of horror game experience that I'm ready to go all in on nowadays. Even though I still love things like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, I do think that games like, say, Outlast or the Resident Evil 7 and Village, that first person sort of walk around, find things, maybe have a little bit of combat here and there, but if they don't have combat at all, that's fine too. I like that style of game, so that's what I was hoping to get from this one. And I have my annual pick it up because it's cheap and the new one is about to come out, MLB The Show 21. I love baseball, And even though I don't get to watch baseball, haven't seen games on TV in 12 years because of not being able to get those channels, I always pick up the games. Sadly, I never really sit down and play them right away. And when I do play them, it's for a limited period of time because there's just so many other games to play. But I will always support the MLB The Show series because it's an amazing and great baseball sim-style game. And I still go back to my MLB 06 The Show game save from time to time, and I'll eventually finish out my career mode on that. So there's that. MLB 22 comes out, I think it was like 1st of April, but you'll probably see me getting that next year when it's 20 or under. Here's another game I was waiting on to go under 20 or 20 or under, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I've been wanting to check this out ever since I first saw anything on this game. Was so glad that EA finally said, you know, we'll stop doing the Battlefront live, what am I thinking of? Games as a service, live service games, and multiplayer only style games. Give us, give a good team like Respawn a single player, story based, narrative driven, Star Wars game. Now, I'm a little intimidated by this game because people say that it has sort of like Souls-light gameplay, but I'm still going to try it out at some point and see what I think of it. Hopefully it is a game that a dumbass like me can play through to the end, because there's a lot of talk about a potential sequel, or maybe it's already been confirmed, and I'd like to play some good Star Wars games like that. Alright, we're down to the last three. Some bigger style games like AAA. This one I'm a little bit late on. Sure, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I was waiting for it to get to a good price. It finally got to one of those good prices, and I was able to pick it up. This completes for me all of the Assassin's Creed games that are on PlayStation 4, which is every Assassin's Creed game that's been put out, with the exception of the first game. Because even the PSP game is on one of the remastered Assassin's Creed games that came out in the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't think there's an Assassin's Creed game, at least one that matters, on PS4 that I don't have. So I'm really interested in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla because of how they kind of change from just a stealth action style game into more like these big open world RPG style. But I'm going to be stubborn and make myself play through the whole series to get up to these. I kind of want it to be the payoff for getting through the older titles. I still have my game save in Assassin's Creed 2, and I really was enjoying that game. I just never did get finished with it, and then I can move on to other titles. Oh, and I have my PS3 hooked up now, and I have the first game on PS3, so I might even wrap back around and play the first one just to make sure I get the whole entire experience. Alright, here's my last two pickups for February. February was a big release month, so you might be wondering or expecting if I'm going to have a couple of the bigger, higher profile games of February. I can tell you I don't have anything that's not on PS4, like Pokemon Legends Arceus is one I would definitely play if I had a Switch again, but I'm not going to buy it right now until I do have a Switch. So I have a couple of the big games that were released on PS4. I'll just say one is an exclusive PlayStation title, one is multiplat. And this is the multi-platform one here. That's Dying Light 2, Stay Human. I've been looking forward to this game for a long time. Even when I started to hear that maybe the game was a little bit more ambitious than the developers wanted it to be. All I wanted was zombie-infested city with parkour. More of the same of the first game. Anything that they added on to that would just be gravy, as they say. Now, unfortunately, I encountered a glitch. Not a big glitch in the grand scheme of things, not a game breaker, but it put me off the game until they patched it. Excuse me. that is that I would be talking to NPCs that are giving me quests, and audio would cut out. You wouldn't hear anything, and the subtitles on the screen would just they just that's a silly noise I made, but it would just go so fast you couldn't read it. So I was getting no information, no narrative, no basic information as to what I was supposed to go do. So I had played like, I don't know, 5-6 hours into the game, and I said I'm gonna hang it up until they get this fixed. That enabled me to spend a little bit of time in Cyberpunk with a more recent patch or update that was done on it, but that was more, I think there was more content added to, well, it was the official release of the PS5 and Series S/X versions of the game. But you also got updates for the PS4 version, but it wasn't really a whole lot. There were a few additional like scenes between you and your love interest or email exchanges or whatever, but there was only real added content given to the next gen or the current gen versions. But I played it for a little bit just to dabble, and then I jumped into while I was still waiting on the Dying Light 2 patches to be done, I jumped into a game that was the game before this one. This is Horizon Forbidden West, but it had been, well, since the release of Zero Dawn, since I played Zero Dawn, and I was like, I want to play that game again before I jump into this one. But I wanted to buy this because I don't have any discipline or any patience on some things. And so I had to own this despite knowing I wasn't going to get to play it for a few weeks. And I literally just earlier today, on the 17th of March, beat Zero Dawn, the Complete Edition, which included the Frozen Wilds DLC, which I got to play that for the first time. And now I'm ready to jump into Forbidden West. But I think I'm going to go back to Dying Light 2, because I was unsuccessful in trying to juggle between Zero Dawn one day and Dying Light 2 on another day, and I just went all in on Zero Dawn. So I'm going to play Dying Light 2 for a while before I jump into this. But like I said, gotta have this. This is one of the big exclusives. I am going to do a recent gaming video on my experience with Zero Dawn, so I can talk a little bit about my feelings, about how I really loved that game for just being fun and cool and interesting, but it didn't hook me narrative-wise like, say, The Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2 did, or even sort of the way like Uncharted games did. As far as like ranking this amongst the pantheon of PS4 or PlayStation exclusives, but definitely during the PS4 generation, it doesn't reach as high heights as, you know, a lot of those other games do. Like I said, I'll talk more about that when I do cover Zero Dawn, but like I said, had to get Forbidden West, and that is the last of my January and February 2022 pickups. So thanks for watching the video. If you watch any of my other videos and you were like wondering what was going on, thanks for coming back and watching this one. I did an update video that'll be on my channel before this one that talks a little bit more about it, but my main thing is just that I got a little bit lazy, I got a little lack of motivation, but now I'm going to try to get back into the swing of things. So at the end of March, 1st of April, you'll see me back with my March pickups, and then we'll go from there. Okay, thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.